Hello, Palladium fans. Welcome to the latest episode of the official History of Palladium Books. I'm here as always with Kevin, and today we're covering a potpourri of Palladium Miscellanea. And these are some games that Kevin and the crew have put out over the years that are either one-offs or were kind of the smaller games that didn't fall within one of the larger, oeuvres that Palladium has put out. So I figured we'd start with Recon. Kevin, I know this is Matthew Ballant was the inspiration for this, kind of brought this to your attention. Tell us about Recon.
Yeah, so Recon started out as a series of small comic book type sized books produced by ex-vet named Joseph Martin. And Matthew Ballant was, still is, I imagine, big time into all kinds of games, board games, role-playing games, everything. And so he came to me at one point, and I don't even know if he had met Joe at a convention. I want to say he met Joe at a convention. But I want to say he met Joe Martin, they got talking, or they were communicating somehow. And they got talking, and Matt found out that, Joe liked the creative end, but didn't like the business end of things, and was willing to sell the game. And originally we planned on offering both his original game and our version of the game. And somehow that just never kind of came around. I think other things took off because we got the game around the same time as Turtles and Robotech. And I think it just kind of fell to the wayside a little bit. And then it was difficult because Joe didn't really want to do more stuff on his own. And then it became really difficult. Plus, he was more of a board game. The interesting thing about the original Recon, and in fact, the original Recon RPG book reflects it. It was like part board game, part role-playing game.
Right. It stands out from the rest of the Megaversal systems as kind of its like Palladium stuff is a
Right,
very
right. It was before we decided we only wanted to do one game system.
yeah.
And then, so that came out. The cover is by me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your artwork, right? Watercolors?
Yep. Because Eric Wujcik wanted something more specific. He actually turned it down, so we put it on the back cover. That's a Peter Laird.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Peter Laird art.
No, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So we came out with it. It did pretty good. Anyways, Matt put me in touch with Joe, and then we chatted and we signed an agreement, and we got Recon. We came out with the first book, and then the real problem was finding people who could write the game without bias. So the only source book that came out for it was Recon, Advanced Recon by Eric Wujcik. And we got several submissions, but the problem was a lot of these guys, we have a bunch of guys who are ex-military, and they're like, let me write a source book for you. So the problem is, and this is no slam on any of these people, because they're all nice folks, each branch of the military thinks they're the best. So, and I'm not going to get into that debate. I hope I haven't offended any, one who's
Two of my best friends are the one guy's Air Force, now Space Force, and the other guy was, Army Cavalry. Those debates have been long going on around my gaming table.
Right, and that's just those two. I mean, then
Right,
there's the
right.
Green Beret, and Navy SEALs and the Marines and everything else. So, it's crazy. So the problem is we'd get these manuscripts and it'd be like, Navy SEALs, they're the best. All these other guys are okay, but they're secondary. And it's like, I can't release this book like that. So it was really difficult getting people to write that kind of stuff. And then back in like 1999, Eric did a more totally role-playing version of the book. That's a cover by Kevin Fales, the same guy who did Ninjas and Super Spies.
Yep.
It's a beaut. And it just it's done okay. It's done well and well enough for us to keep it in print. It's a little different. Historical games, generally speaking, don't do quite as well as other games. I think, sadly, people are kind of history adverse. Personally, I love them. And I mean, I love history, and I love games that are done well that capture that history. So, like Aces and Eights.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, by
I,
Kenzerko.
yeah, yep, I really love that. That's by my buddy Jelly Blackburn at Kenzer Co. And Bushido was outstanding. And for old timers out there, when Aces was it? It was like a flip book game that came out in like the late '70s, early
The one where
'90s.
it's the two, like
Yeah,
the dogfighting game. Yeah,
dogfighting
yeah.
game from World War II.
One of my favorites right now is there's a company called Metis Creative they're out of Turkey. They're doing what they call historical arcana, and it's a role-playing game, but like I have the Silk Road box. It's set during the time of the Silk Road, and it's so well researched and it's so well put together. Like magic exists, but only as it existed, people believed at the time. They
Right.
got a Crusade one. I think for me, having done like several games, I love reading history, and I did a lot of research for Jackals, but I always find it easier to write fantasy because I can take all of the history I've absorbed and parse it through the lens of the world. So it doesn't have to be accurate. But if I'm writing a historical game, I have to be on my toes and I
Oh,
have to be
absolutely.
and so writing a historical game becomes much more of a dissertation project or a research project than it does
Yes.
for a fantasy game.
Yep. Well, I think Matthew Ballant, with his new expanded Valley of the Pharaohs role-playing game, which should come out around, I think, Christmas time 2024. I think it's going to the printer. He asked me some printing questions, so I think it's about to go to the printer, and it's super expanded from that original little book. I mean, it's like 224 or 250
Oh,
page.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's like 50 different magic spells and all kinds of stuff in it. A bunch of, as well as a bunch of the old original stuff, but he really retooled it dramatically. I can't wait to see it. I'd be curious to see what he's done with it. And we may even offer a smattering on for a limited time on the Palladium website at some
That'll
point.
be cool.
But yeah, and but yeah, so I'm excited to see what he's done with that, where he's taken it. But yeah, historical games are tricky, and especially if Recon, it came out in the '80s, so Vietnam was still kind of a touchy subject. And so one of the things that Joe Martin did was he made it in sort of it's the Vietnam War, but it's in sort of a fictional alternate Earth. So you have different names for the countries and the political powers involved and stuff. But it's still kick ass. And the original stuff, it's out there. It's expensive as hell if you can find it. At one point, we were talking about putting it on drive through, but I don't know if Wayne ever finished that project. I need to check with him. Recon was fun. This
Awesome.
this book is still available.
Now, right around the early 90s, right, obviously we had a whole episode on Palladium's involvement with Robotech. And we touched on the fact that Robotech, what we call Robotech in the US, is really several different animes that are kind of recut and re-edited into what we know and love as Robotech. One of those being Macross. And so in the early 90s, you got the chance to do like Macross II, the role-playing game.
We did.
How did that come about? I have that book. Yeah, let me rephrase that. I have both of those books.
I love that cover. It's one of my favorite Kevin
Oh
Long
yeah.
covers. I wish I owned it. I don't.
How did this come about? Why revisit a variant of a let's call it a parallel universe of Robotech, at least from the gaming perspective.
Well, because I Long and me and Alex and pretty much everyone at Palladium were really into anime. And Macross is the origin
Yeah.
of Robotech. And Macross is huge in Japan.
Yeah.
So they came out with Macross II, and it was starting to hit the States, and we were just admiring that it was out, and we were like, this will be cool, the anime. And we get a call from U.S. renditions, and they're like, hey, you guys did a great job of Robotech. Do you want a license for Macross II? Why, yes, I would.
I've always said quality speaks for itself, right? Like,
Well, that's the thing is when you're doing a bunch of books that people love and the word gets out there,
yeah.
um, people start reaching out to you. In fact, when people ask me what's the hardest thing of running a successful business, I say deciding what not to do, because you have all these opportunities and you can't always do justice for them. And so if you can't do justice with it, I say no.
Yeah.
Or if some of the other stuff you're working on is going to suffer because you're taking on a new thing or too much, then you need to say no. And but we said yes. So
And that's a
it was
Zalesnik
awesome.
cover, correct?
What's that?
Zalesnik cover on Macross, the source.
Long Zeleznik. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome.
And
And
then the DreamPod Gods 9 guys reached out to us. And at the time, I don't remember if they were actually DreamPod 9 yet or if they were just protoculture addicts. I don't remember how that went, how that progression went. I think they were DreamPod 9 from the beginning. And DreamPod 9 would go on to produce a bunch of giant mech
oh
uh,
yeah.
science fiction role playing games for a long time. I don't know if they're still around. I hope so. They're a bunch of great guys.
I
And they're
always looked at what was their big one, and it always had like the red and or the yellow and black hazard, like
oh
uh
my heavy gear.
heavy gear. I always looked at heavy gear because it's always one of those games that looks really great on the shelf and looked really, but I've never sat down and like read it to play heavy gear.
I read it when it first came out. It seemed pretty good. I don't really remember it that well
Yeah.
anymore. But they were really nice guys. I met Robert and some of the other crew, and they were just great guys, Canadians. And I have an affinity for Canucks, and we became friends. They came and visited the office a couple of times. And when we got Macross 2, they're like, Kev, your deck plans are okay, but our bread and butter is graphic design,
Yeah.
and that's what we want to do. So for God's sakes, please let us do
Right. And
these
those
deck
look
plan
like
books.
if you've ever opened up a heavy gear book, that's what they look like, right? That is what the heavy gear was always why they were so visually attractive to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're great. My only complaint with them, if I have a complaint, so I mean they're beautiful, is
Yeah.
that in their own books they kind of went a little crazy with a lot of the little doodads everywheres.
Yeah.
We kind of reined them in a little bit on this, and um, so I think sometimes their own stuff gets a little cluttered. But they're
That's pretty
generally
clean.
beautiful books,
Yeah.
and these are beautiful books. And, we have 1, 2, and 3, and it's pretty epic. This has a bunch of moon base type things. Book 3, and it was wonderful working with those guys. They turned in beautiful work. They came in on time. They were open to suggestions and notes, and we worked really well together. We had a wonderful time, and they created a piece of Palladium and Macross II history.
Which is awesome. For any fan, that's like the coolest thing to be involved with, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, let's go back. It hurts me to say this. It hurts me so much to say this. Let's go back 25 years to 1999, the world was consumed with a rather silly fear, as it turned out. For those of you who are watching, who are of our younger crowd, uh, we were all worried about something called Y2K.
Not we were all.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Some
The
people.
culture was pervasively worried. I don't think I ever worried because I was like, I'm all analog. So if anything happens, all of my books are going to be fine. But it was this thing where computers, when they came out, weren't intended to have the dates in their systems like roll over to 2000. And the world was frantically trying to patch computer systems. And as it turned out, we did fine with it. But there was this fear that, on January 1st, 2000, that the entire infrastructure was going to collapse. And we had people prepping for it. We had, people saying it's the end of the world. Y2K was being talked about. And I remember seeing the first ads for system failure, and I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic!" Like, I think the only time I played system failure was on New Year's Eve,
Oh, nice.
1999, for my New Year's Eve party in college. We played system failure until the clock ticked over, and then looked around, and of course, here we are 25 years later.
Well,
So,
well,
about systems failure.
part of the problem was you had the computer issue, which for like conspiracy people was just one more piece of evidence that the world
Mhm.
would come to an end, or at least all machines would shut down. And the other thing was that the Aztec, I believe it was, or Incan, one of those guys,
The Mayan calendar was rolling over?
Mayan, what
Yeah.
they all kind of blur because they're kind of like one after the other in Central America and Mexico. One of those great ancient Central American cultures, which seemed very prophetic and ahead of their times and were into
Mhm.
astrology and all that kind of stuff. Their calendar ended with the end of the world.
Yeah.
And as somebody had calculated, or a bunch of somebodies, that was the year 2000 or 2001. And because I think later there's some controversy as whether it was the year 2000 or was 2001. And anyway, so yeah, everyone was convinced that the world was going to end. Army surplus stores were selling like gas masks and survival kits. And I saw lines of people
Oh yeah.
because we had an army surplus store where we lived in Dearborn. And oh my gosh, there were lines of people. There were special sales for all kinds of survival stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be part of the end of the world. And they were big, some people thought it was silly and did big celebrations, and others, were prepping just in
Yeah.
case.
Just in
Because you
case.
never know.
Yeah.
So I came up with the idea of doing a book called Systems Failure that would deal with, and because they're so worried about, electronics and everything, I thought we'd come up with an alien invasion of these bug-like insects that are actually energy beings. When
Hmm.
they take on the physical manifestation, they look like that, or one of them do, anyways. And but otherwise, they were electrical, energy based, and they infest and infect our power grids and turn everything off.
Fantastic.
And they can control electricity, and they can travel through electric lines, and can appear, through any place that has active currents of electricity. And so it's the end of the world, baby.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. And that's
and
Mike Wilson did the interior.
Mike Wilson did 90% of the art, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson did the rest.
And
Uh, and
John
it's
Zalesnik did the cover,
it's
which is
great stuff. Oh, John Zalesnik nailed that
yeah,
cover.
no, that cover's perfect.
Oh yeah,
It's just
dad protecting
perfect.
his kid in a bunker. I mean, yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't get better than that. And the bug art is fantastic. I can't seem to find it as I flip through. There you go. It's some of the best.
Oh yeah.
Mike Wilson. Mike Wilson is a great guy, and he was just so inspired when he did this book. I think he was supposed to do all of it, and something came up, and he couldn't quite do it. He felt so bad, and it's like, don't feel bad, Mike, because the art you did,
Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah.
Just great.
Awesome.
So it's kind of it's one of the few beer and pretzel games. Oh, by the way, the bugs, if you're not careful, they'll turn you into mindless zombies.
I mean, that's one of the great parts about systems failure is that it doesn't touch on just the Y2K fear, but like there's a couple of other
Oh yeah.
sort of end of the world uh apocalypses that get kind of, threaded in there, the zombies being, one of them, alien
Two.
invaders being a third, right? It's
Yep.
it's
Yep.
sort of a plethora of ways that the world ends all at once.
Yep, exactly. And so I had this great idea to do the book. I had a bunch of notes. I had a clear idea of what it should be. And I was lamenting to my then freelance writing friend, Bill Coffin, that I just don't have the time to write this. And it's killing me because I think it'd be a great fun book to come out with. And I'm going to be so disappointed that I probably can't get it done. And Bill said, Gav, I love the idea. Let me do it. Please let me do it. I can do this. And I said, well, sure, take a run at it. And he did. He did a great job. I went in and tweaked it and added stuff. But he just did a bang up job. And it's fun. You can play it totally tongue in cheek, or you can play it deadpan serious. But it's a fun kind of, like I said, beer and pretzel survival game. It could be a short campaign, or it could be probably even a long campaign. But it certainly makes a great night or a couple weekend nights
Yeah.
of gaming fun.
All right. Well, rounding out this episode, we also have splicers,
Splicers.
uh, sort of biotech versus AI mechanical uh, craziness. Tell us about splicers, Kevin.
So Splicers, and the cover doesn't do it justice. I had commissioned a cover before I'd gotten the manuscript, and so this is the brainchild of Carmen Belair,
Hmm.
another one of my freelance writers. He did a lot of great books for us, contributed to things. Rift's Black Market is another one of
Yep.
his, and Powers Unlimited 1, 2, 3. He's an excellent writer, really understands my game system. And this was things were going kind of wild at the company and stuff, and things were going on, and it was in the aftermath of my divorce from Marianne, and a few years later, and Carmen walks up and says, Kev, I got this great idea for a game. And I'm like, yeah. And he pitched it to me. He goes, can I write it? And I said, sure. You've written
Why
a bunch of
not,
other
right?
stuff. And the concept is that it's some distant world, and there's like implication that it could be Earth, or it could be an Earth colony world, because it's in the far-flung future. And part of the colonization process is to have an AI, artificial intelligence, kind of organize and keep organized, just like we use AIs today.
Yeah.
Carmen was a little ahead of his time with some of that, but this AI keeps all the colonization, all the different outposts on that planet, all the different colonies on the planet as they're terraforming and doing stuff. It keeps it all organized and keeps everything together, and it's all high tech, cool stuff. Except one little wrinkle: the AI is crazy
Yep.
and has like 7 different personalities, and each of the 7 personalities have taken over different locations on the planet and are running them completely different. And part of the big directive, of course, is human survival and human uh, being able to expand into the universe. But the AI, the big overall AI is Nexus and all its little personalities. It's decided that humankind needs to be controlled because they're their own worst enemy. And then some of the split personalities, like Kali, has decided, no, man, they're a liability to everybody, every living thing in the universe. So we need to, destroy them. But maybe we have fun and torture them and experiment with them first. And then there's others who are like, no, humans are great as long as they live in the Bronze Age level of stuff. So there's an area that's all kind of that. And so a lot of the original colonists that escaped have gone underground. And one of the things that Nexus has done is unleash, oh shoot, I forget what it's called. It's basically this metal virus. So anything that's made of metal, if a human picked up, this X-Acto knife, which has metal in it, and touched it, it comes to life like a liquid kind of thing, almost like Terminator 2, and kills that person. So human beings can't use a stapler or a hammer or a metal spike or anything with metal, because if they touch it with their bare hands, well, any part of their body, if they touch it, it comes to life and kills them. So the survivors have had to resort entirely to biomachines, and bio-armor, and bio-weapons. So they have living armor and living weapons. It predates Rifts and Lemuria with biomancy and their living armor and weapons and stuff. In fact, I think Lemuria was part of the Splicers was part of the inspiration for Lemuria. I know it certainly was for the art of Chuck Walton.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool book. It's a pretty cool concept. It's more of a cult following, like Mechanoids. And sales have not been stellar, but they're good. We keep it in print, and Chuck and a couple of his buddies, Chuck Walton and a few of his buddies, came up with this big whopping source book. It was serialized in the Rifter over 8 issues, and they collected along with some other stuff and some crazy cool art.
Yeah, it always reminded me a bit of Guyver. I don't know if you ever saw that anime.
Oh yeah, that Guyver. We always describe it as Guyver meets the Terminator.
Yep.
And Guyver, I think Guyver and Terminator were two of Carmen's definite influences, inspirations.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody's like, isn't it cool all these tools that AI we have for AI? And I'm like, no, because we have 70 years of science fiction saying that it always starts off good and it always ends with the machines trying to enslave or kill us.
Yeah, well, hopefully that won't be the case, but yeah, it's not promising. So we'll see. Hopefully that kind of reality isn't going to happen. Splicers is fun. I think the creation process is a little tricky, and there's a bunch of neat stuff in there, but I think there's so much detail it kind of weighs things down a little bit. I mentioned that to Carmen about condensing some things. He's like, no, people want the details. I'm like, okay. It's your pet project. We'll go that way and see what happens. And then there's other cool things like your living armor. So splicers are people who wear the living armor, the bio armor, and that's a splicer right there, one of them. And the thing is, with your armor, it's kind of reminds me a little bit too of, and I think Venom was around already, but
oh yeah. Yeah, Venom and Carnage were back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
90s for sure. Probably is 80s. Because, yeah.
I think at least for Venom, because
Secret War started in mid 80s.
Yeah.
And that's when the suit was introduced, and Venom shortly thereafter. So, yeah, probably mid or late 80s Venom.
Yeah.
And, but, sort of like Venom, the suits have instincts and desires. They're animalistic-ish.
Yeah.
And it depends what kind of suit you pick. You know, if your suit is based off more of a domestic animal, it's a more benign. And the thing is, you have to actually feed your living armor because it's living armor.
Right, because it's alive.
So, you know, if it's based on, you know, a deer or that kind of bovine type animal, then you need to feed it grass and vegetation. If it's a predator, it needs to eat meat, maybe even doesn't force you, but wants you to go hunt and
Hmm.
make the kill, and so it can eat the blood and the marrow and the bones and guts and brains and whatever. Which is I kind of like that little touch of horror
Oh
because there's
yeah.
a lot of horror in this because a bunch of the machines creations are just like half living abominations. I mean, they're robots, and then there's there's like there's a horrible scarecrow creature, or and the saint that's some kind of abomination, and you got pack masters which control these mutant animals. There's a lot of cool, terrible things on the sides of the robot machines,
Oh yeah.
as well as their machines. So you know, there's the neck robots, which are made out of dead people, part technology, part dead people. There's some really wicked, interesting
Oh
stuff.
yeah. I, creativity and imagination was never a limiting factor at Palladium Books.
No, and in fact, it has. And I know Carmen had not read, and certainly the movies or the TV show wasn't out. It has some bits of Game of Thrones in it as well. Because there's
Really?
political intrigue, and there's like different houses. The survivors, there's these like different houses, and they all kind of conduct their business differently. And there's little rivalries, and
Yeah.
you know, the one house will get angry at another house if they bring down the wrath of the machine and that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
it's good stuff.
Very cool. Well, Kevin, thank you so much as always. We'll be back next time